Okay, so they're asking to write an equation parallel. I know parallel means it has the same slope, so that's pretty important. That means I have my n. But I have to figure out what goes through this point. That means I have to find the b that goes through that point. So I really only need the 1/2 for the m, and then the rest is garbage. So I get y equals mx plus b. This goes in for x, this goes in for y. So -8 goes in for x, 1/2 goes in for m, and -3 goes in for y. And then I go from there. I can either use a calculator. I know that 1/2 of 8 is 4, and there's one negative, so -4. Make sure you show me all your work. You can use a calculator, but you need to show me you didn't. +4 plus 4, b equals 1. Now be careful, because I asked for the equation, not the value of b. So the equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 1. Okay. All right. Find the domain and the range in set notation and interval notation. So domain is always my x. I'll do that in pink. And my range is always in y. Do that in blue. Okay. I need to get it in set notation and interval notation. I feel like for you, you're more comfortable in set notation world, so I will start with that. Domain means everything to the right and everything to the left. This points to the right, this points to the left forever. All real numbers. Okay. And then how you write that in interval notation is -infinity to +infinity, both having parentheses. Okay. The range has to do with everything up and everything down. Well, if you look, this points down forever. This points up forever. All real numbers. -infinity to positive. I forgot to write the positive infinity. Okay. The next one might be a little bit more challenging. So let's slow down a little bit. Start with set notation. Domain means everything to the right and everything to the left. When I look, this is pointing to the right. And even though it looks like it's going up, when I'm focused on domain, I'm thinking right and left. So it continues to go to the right forever. It continues to go to the left forever. All real numbers. -infinity to +infinity. Now the range means everything up and everything down. Well, if you look, it's only pointing which way? Up. So there's a restriction because it's not even pointing down. So if I know it's pointing up, it's everything bigger then, because it's getting bigger and bigger. The range has to do with what letter, and that's y. Now, I just have to figure out what number goes there. Well, it literally starts here at the vertex. You don't have to know vertex, but it starts here and goes up. So I figure out that's 1, -4. Now, when I'm dealing with range, hold on, set notation, range has to do with your y. So I don't care about the x value for my range. I care about the y value for my range. Boom, that's -4. Okay, so that's where the -4 came from. Now, the harder part is interval notation. So it literally starts at -4. It's part of it. If it's included, it's in brackets, -4, comma. It starts at -4 and goes up and up and up forever. Parentheses. So it's brackets when it's included. Now, I know you think up and up and up feels like it should be included, but up and up just means it keeps going. Keeps going, keeps going. It's not included. Okay. All right. Let's try the next one. Domain. Domain is everything to the right and everything to the left. Well, if you look, there aren't even any forevers. So there is going to be some restrictions. Well, if you notice, this is my right and this is my left. So it literally starts on the x-axis at -1 and then goes from the x-axis all the way to the number 7. So -1 to 7. What letter are we talking about? X, less. Now, I know some of you are confused by that because you're like, okay, well, it's less than 7, but it's bigger than -1. Well, if I was to rewrite this, let me write it like this, and I was to split it. This is x is less than or equal to 7. That's not the issue. This is -1 is less than or equal to x, but that's backwards. So if I made it forwards, it's saying x is bigger than -1. So if you look, that shows x is bigger than -1. This is your way of writing between, okay, like in the middle, less, in between. Now in interval notation, you'll like this one, negative comma, -1 comma, all the way to 7, brackets, because it's included, and it's included. Now let's do the circle, the range. There's no up and down forever. So it's here at 1, and here at -1, and here at -9. Now, when you're writing range, you can't go from -1 to -9. It's always the smallest to the biggest, okay? So it's going to be -1 to -1. -9 to -1. But this time I'm dealing with range. So instead of writing X, I'm going to write Y, less, set notation, brackets, -9 to -1. Remember, smallest to biggest, okay? Now in this next one, we're going to do something backwards. So this time I gave you this and I want the picture. So first thing I have to do is write this in interval notation. That means -infinity to +infinity. And then if it's y is less than 2, that means let me show you a visual. It's down here at -2 and then keeps going down. Okay. So that means if I'm going from, remember in the circle, I said I had to go from smallest to biggest. So I have to go from smallest, which way down here forever and ever is -infinity, all the way to the biggest. So I'm going from -infinity to 2. And wherever we're dealing with infinity, it's parentheses. And wherever we're dealing, this is less than, so that's also going to be parentheses. I want to point out that if this said y is less than or equal to -2, it would be -infinity parenthesis 2 bracket. So this line means it's included. Okay? So I know, -2. Careful of that. So I know if I'm going to draw this picture, -2 is an important value. I know it starts here and goes down. So actually, I could have a multitude of answers. So let me see if I can find a pencil. Okay, I'll just use a bunch of paper. So one answer is I could just make this thing, because if you look, these two examples here are very similar. All real numbers, y is. But this one's going up, and this one's going down. So I could draw it like this and be done. I could also draw it like this, -2, and make a V. I could draw it like this at -2 and make a squiggle, 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 and make it go straight. I could also do the -2 here and actually start it here at -2 and have it go down. But what I can't do is do this, because this means it's going which way? Up. Now, I've got to slow down because I realized what my issue was. Let me find a highlighter. I have all of these closed circle, closed circle, closed circle, closed circle. I even have this closed circle. But this means that this should be an open circle. So this should be an open circle. This should be an open circle. The only way this would work is if it was y. If it was a closed circle, it'd be y is less than or equal to -2. Okay? This closed circle would be y is greater than or equal to -2. But open circle, that's not there. Okay? All right. So now I am going to give you bonus if you can get an equation. So if you can do an equation, you're going to get bonus. Since I made a parabola, I know it's x squared. It's going down, and I'll just be happy if you give me the parent function. Okay? If you're even more fancy, you'll go -2. Okay? Don't worry about this. This is bonus. All right, last problem. Frank is building a pattern. Uh-oh. If I'm hearing pattern, I know there's going to be an equation somewhere. So when I look here, blah, 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 I see 2 goes with 11 and 7 goes with 26. So that tells me 2 goes with 11 and 7 goes with 26. But then that reminds me of a pattern. Bigger by 15, bigger by 5, 15 over 5 is 3. That's my m. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to use this equation because it's smaller to plug into my x and y. So my y is 11, my m is 3, my x is 2 plus b. B equals, that's a 6, by the way. I know it's confusing with the b. B equals 5. I have my m, I have my b. Y equals 3x plus 5. I can check it real quick. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 5 is 26. Now I have to be careful though, because they asked me to say use t of n and n. So y equals 3x plus 5 is not going to work. It needs to be t of n equals 3n plus 5. That's what I need to do. Okay? Now, you may have a question in there, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, and it might say figure 7 has how many tiles? So if you see a question like that, what you're going to do is you're going to take that 7 and you're going to plug it in. And you're going to go 3 times 7 plus 5, 21 plus 5, 26. Now, if you just write 26, I have no idea what you're talking about. What are we talking about? 26 tiles. Okay, so that's your quiz. Study. Good luck.